Hey, witches!
Hi, hello, and welcome back to another Cryptids episode where we visit Great Britain.
Yeah, we
Yay.
do. Um, so I'm doing the Black Shuck, which is the demon dog of East Anglia. Um, so this is
The
the
story of
eastern region.
girl. American Horror.
I mean, sure. This is the eastern coast of England. Um, kind of like in the countryside, not in the city. My goodness. Okay. Some call him a ghost, some call him a demon, others just think he's an omen of death. His name is Black Shuck.
Blah.
And if local legend is to be believed, seeing him may be the last thing you ever do.
Man, it's kind of like a banshee. Why is it like Great Britain has all these, like,
So
you see
it
something?
reminds me of the Grimm,
Oh.
right? Which is specifically Harry Potter. Well, I mean, it's not just specifically Harry Potter, but that's what this reminded me of. That's why I picked
Yeah.
this. Um, so it's a phantom black dog. He's often associated with East. Oh, I said Anglia, but it's East Anglia.
It's probably like Angelia. I don't know.
Um, which is on the eastern coast of England, including Norfolk and Suffolk. Um, so witnesses of this cryptid describe it as an enormous black dog with shaggy fur, sometimes as large as a horse, with fiery red or glowing eyes, but silent footsteps, and an appearance that seems almost supernatural. Which, if you see a dog that is the size of a horse, then yeah, that feels fairly supernatural to me. um, so there is speculation between cryptozoologists that his name may come from the Old English word shuka, which means devil spirit or evil spirit. So his name, based on that, literally translates to the black demon. This is not the kind of dog you want to bring home for a puppy. It's not a puppy that you bring home. Although that one guy on TikTok says that white women are crazy and they're not afraid of anything and they'll take any animal home as a pet. So maybe a white woman would. I don't know. I'm white, but I'm not that white.
I'm that way. I like animals, though. That's my problem.
I also really like animals. We actually were running around the neighborhood yesterday trying to help some of our neighbors. Their dogs got out and we were trying to help them get their dogs back in. But anyway, um but it is important to know that the Black Shuck is not the only phantom dog in Great Britain. There are many different ones. There are the Barghest in Yorkshire, the Gert dog of Somerset, and the Maudie Doo on the Isle of Man. They're often connected to crossroads, graveyards, lonely roads, places where tragedy has occurred. But the Black Shuck stands apart because of one particular event that allegedly happened in the 16th century. And this is one of the most chilling stories in English folklore. So the date was August 4th, 1577. There's a violent thunderstorm rolling across East Anglia, and rain was lashing the countryside, thunder was shaking the ground, and people were gathering indoors to pray. Um, According to local accounts, during the height of this storm, something extraordinary happened. At the Holy Trinity Church in the village of Blythborough in Suffolk, a monstrous black dog burst into the church. So imagine that you're in church. You're praying. It's during a thunderstorm. Everyone's quiet because they're praying. And all of a sudden, the doors fly open, lightning flashes, and there's a giant black animal with glowing eyes running through the building.
And then you just hear a little child say, "Kitty!"
Kitty!
And then
Oh
everybody
my
else
gosh.
just starts screaming, "The
All
demon!"
right. Well, so according to the legend, the creature ran through the congregation and two worshippers were killed instantly. Others were injured. And then as quickly as it appeared, it vanished.
Here's the
Um,
thing. So, like, did he touch those 2 that died, or did he just, like, run past them and they died?
it says he ran through the congregation. So I'm imagining he's running through the people. So he probably did touch them.
I was gonna say they probably just died of fright,
Could be.
but he also could have stomped on him if he was, like, running through.
Yeah. It doesn't say. Um, but then when it disappeared, there's two different accounts. Some people say it disappeared in a flash of fire, and the rest say it simply dissolved into the storm. Like it dissolved into the rain. To this day, visitors to the church are shown scorch marks on the door that some locals claim were left by the Black Shuck's claws. Whether those marks actually came from a supernatural dog is unknown, but the story has survived for nearly 450 years. Um, so that's like a specific creepy story about him. But over the centuries, the Black Shuck has developed a terrifying reputation, and many stories claim that seeing him meant death was near. Sometimes it would be your own death, other times it would be a friend or a family member. A traveler might encounter a giant black dog on a lonely road. The creature would stare silently, then disappear, and days later, tragedy would strike. These stories transformed the Black Shuck from a simple ghostly animal into an omen and a warning from the supernatural world. Um, but not every story is as dark. Interestingly, not every version is evil. In a handful of stories, he is portrayed as a protector. Travelers lost in dangerous weather are guided safely home by a mysterious black dog. Um, Others report being followed by the creature without coming to any harm. Um, but many supernatural beings have that kind of duality. Um, of course, if I saw a horse-sized dog with glowing red eyes walking toward me in the fog, I probably wouldn't stop to be like, "Hey, are you a death omen or can I pet you?" I don't know, I might. Depends on what version of me you get that day. Um, but those are like the older, more historic sightings, but there have been modern reportings of sightings of the Black Shuck. Um, so throughout the 20th and 21st centuries, witnesses have described seeing these large black dogs on country roads, coastal paths, in graveyards, and woodlands. Most reports share the familiar details that the dog appears suddenly, makes little to no sound, has unusually bright eyes, and then vanishes. Some insist that the animal seemed physically real, but others describe it as shadow like or ghostly. However, despite modern technology, no one has produced definitive evidence of this creature. Um, so what could it actually be? Theory one, a regular dog. The simplest explanation is that early witnesses just encountered unusually large dogs. Britain has multiple really large breeds like wolfhounds, mastiffs. There are a lot of really large breeds that
Greyhounds.
originated in that originated in Britain. Um, so it could have just been a regular dog. Um, Theory two, misidentification. Large black animals can be difficult to identify at night, especially in a storm. So it could have been a horse or deer or shadows in these poor weather conditions to be mistaken for something supernatural. Obviously, the one in the church couldn't have just been, I mean, it could have been a deer or a horse, I guess, but since it came into the church, it's unlikely it probably was like a wolf or something. Could have been a cat though. I don't know. Do they have big cats in England? I don't know. Um, Theory 3 is folklore in action. Once a story becomes famous, people start interpreting experiences through that lens. Um, so it's kind of like how when you're on a ghost hunting tour, like you're more open to experiencing ghosts. I don't know, experiencing spirits. And also sometimes when you wake up from a bad so example, when you wake up from a bad dream where you thought someone was in your house, then you still feel like someone's in your house and you can talk yourself into hearing things. Um, but it's just your perception based on
It's like that paranoia.
yeah. Yeah. And then theory 4 is something unknown. Cryptozoologists obviously suggest another possibility that maybe people really are seeing something unexplained, a creature, spirit, or phenomenon we don't understand yet. Um, Especially because stories about Black Shuck have persisted for centuries and it's a remarkably long life for a legend. Um, People tend to still like this story because it taps into some very persistent human fears, like the fear of darkness, the fear of being alone, fear of encountering something that shouldn't be there, or most of all, the fear of death itself. Um, so it this dog or depictions of dogs similar to this one appear even in, like I said earlier, Harry Potter, but modern media. Um, but yeah, so if you happen to be out and about and you see a gigantic black dog, I mean, it's up to you, but maybe don't go pet it, especially if its eyes are glowing. Could be a protector, could be a demon dog that's a death omen. I guess at that point, though, if it's a death omen and you've already seen it, then you're gonna die anyway. Might as well pet the doggy. So anyway,
Be in the
that
after
is
you can be in the afterlife being like, I pet the demon dog.
right. Anyway, that is the Black Shuck.
Maybe because you were brave enough to go up to it and pet it, maybe it'll
Protect you or something.
spare you.
Yeah, maybe.
And that'd be kind of cool. Cool. All right. Well, I just got done eating a snack, so me. Because if I don't eat enough throughout the day, I could get sick. Oh, anyways. Um, so I'm gonna be doing the Loch Ness Monster. We both don't believe we've done the Loch Ness Monster. If we have, I apologize. But we gonna do it again.
Yeah, it's fine.
God, trail mix trying to kill me. Okay.
If we did, it was really early in our journey, and that episode was probably not as good quality. So just be happy. You're getting another version.
You're getting a different one. Um, what happened to my work? Okay. Now what happened to this? What's happening? There we go. Okay. We Gucci now. Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna be doing the Loch Ness Monster. So to get you in the ambiance, here's a little cold opener for you. So imagine the water is black, not the soft black of night sky or of velvet. This is the black of depth, the black of pressure, the black of something ancient that has never once needed the sun. The Loch Ness doesn't shimmer, it absorbs. It takes light the way a secret takes a breath, quietly, completely, without apology. You stand at the shoreline, and the air is cold enough to sting your teeth. Ooh, that sucks. The mist moves like it has intention, and the water is just too still. Still in a way a held breath is still. Then there's a ripple. It's not wind, it's not a boat, it's not anything that you can name. It's just a shape rising and falling beneath the surface as if the loch itself is exhaling. Tonight, we're not just telling a story, we're descending into a place where folklore, geology, hoax, hope, and human longing all braid together into one long, dark silhouette. This is the Loch Ness Monster. And this is what lives beneath. Yeah. And this is what lives beneath still water. So there's your cold opener. So that's kind of like getting you into the mood, you know. Um, so Loch Ness is the name of the infamous lake where this quote unquote monster lives. And it's nicknamed Nessie. So if you ever actually see um photos of Nessie, not of Nessie, but of like Nessie sightings, it's usually what looks like a dinosaur like creature, um, with like a long neck just kind of hanging out of the lake, kind of swimming about, and then it just like disappears. So that's for those who never didn't know, now you know. Okay. So before Nessie became a creature with a mate, she was a presence. God, Jesus. Of course I start talking now, you start hiccuping. Did you know that if the baby hiccups, I could probably hiccup at the same time?
I did not know that.
The more you know. Ugh. Okay, so before Nessie became a creature with a name, she was a presence without one. The Scottish Highlands have always been a landscape where the physical world and the mythic world sit so close together they share breath. That's probably why the majority of the fairy tales that we come to love and learn as children come from like Great Britain area because there's just so many.
Yeah.
Um, Hello, chaos. Mist doesn't just appear, it usually arrives like a visitor. Mountains don't just rise, they loom like witnesses. And water is never just water. In Highland lore, water is a threshold. It's a boundary or a mouth. And mouths have teeth. Long before the word cryptid existed, the people of the Highlands told stories of beings that lived in the deep. Not monsters, but warnings. They were the Kelpies, shape-shifting water spirits that appeared as beautiful horses. They came Then came the Ushke, the water horse of the Lochs. Um, and they were more dangerous than the Kelpie, more cunning and all of that. So these stories weren't bedtime tales. They were survival manuals disguised as myth. It was a way of teaching children and adults that deep water is a threshold and thresholds demand respect. And then there's a story of Columba in the year 565. A missionary traveling through the highlands, he encounters a water beast in the river Ness. Not the loch, but the river Ness. But the river Ness is the artery that feeds it. The creature attacks a swimmer. Columba raises his hand, makes the sign of the cross, and commands it to retreat. And according to the chronicle, it does. Is that Nessie, though? Probably not, but it does tell us something essential. The idea of a creature in these waters predates modern Scotland, predates Christianity, predates the very language used to describe it. Nessie isn't a modern invention. She's the latest mask worn by something the Highlands have always believed in, a presence beneath the surface, ancient and watchful, shaped by fear, reverence, and the human need to explain the unexplainable. Sorry, also learning how to rebreathe. Um, so the 1930s, this is when Nessie kind of goes global. We're gonna fast forward to 1933. A new road is built along the loch, a simple act of infrastructure that accidentally becomes a spark for a global phenomenon. For the first time, people can drive along the shoreline and look directly into the water. And suddenly, the loch starts looking back. Sightings explode, not one or two, but dozens. The most famous early report comes from George and Margaret Spicer. They describe a creature crossing the road in front of their car. It was a long neck, a bulky body, no visible limbs, just moving with a strange prehistoric grace. Newspapers seize on it. Monster of Loch Ness, strange creature seen in Highland waters. The story spreads like wildfire. Then comes the photographs. The surgeon's photograph from 1934, it offered an elegant silhouette, the long neck, the tiny head, and the ripples around it like a creature gliding through still water. For decades, it was the definitive proof, the image that launched 1,000 documentaries, postcards, and pilgrimages until it wasn't. In the 1990s, one of the hoaxers actually confessed. It was actually a toy submarine with a sculpted head attached. It was a prank, a petty revenge plot, if you will, a global phenomenon born from a model kit. But here's the twist. Even after the hoax was exposed, people kept seeing things because Nessie wasn't just a photograph. She had already become a myth and a legend of the area. And myths don't just die when evidence collapses, they adapt, if you will. um, so there was a science to it, like the sonar, the submersibles, and the search for a body in the Loch Ness, and that's what we'll talk about now. The Loch Ness is very deep, and I mean very deep. It's over 750 feet in deep in places, which is deeper than the North Sea. And it's very murky. It's peat rich, so it's light absorbing. So it's very black, dark, very hard to see through, if you will. A perfect place for shadows to look like shapes and shapes to look like creatures. Or so Brandy's myth possibly tells. Scientists couldn't resist in this. In the 1950s, sonar teams scanned the loch and detected large moving objects. They weren't fish, it wasn't debris, it was just something big. In 1975, a team from the Academy of Applied Science captured underwater photos that appeared to show a diamond-shaped flipper, and the world went wild with this. Then Operation Deep Scan in 1987 came. This was the largest sonar sweep ever done on a lake. Multiple contacts that were large, moving, but still unidentified. Um, Skeptics still continue to say it's thermoclines, schools of fish, debris. Believers say there is something down there. And then in 2018, scientists conducted a full DNA analysis of the loch. They found no evidence of prehistoric reptiles, but they did find something else. They found eel DNA and a lot of eel DNA. So the idea is, could Nessie be a giant eel or a mutation of something that was within the deep? A species that we haven't cataloged yet? Maybe. But here's the thing. Even when science tries to close the case, the loch refuses to give up all of its secrets because Loch Ness isn't just deep in a physical sense, it's deep in a psychological one too. It is a place where the human mind fills in the darkness with whatever it fears or hopes the most. So it doesn't matter if science locks up what the Loch Ness truly is or what the Loch Ness Monster truly is. The science, or not science, but there's people out there who still believe that it's something different because of the unknown part of it, that their minds just want to learn what it is truly. Um, but let's kind of think about it. Why do we need Nessie? Why does this creature matter so much? Why do people travel from all over the world to stare at a lake hoping for just a little glimpse of a ripple? It's because Nessie isn't just a monster, she's a mirror. She reflects for our longing for mystery. Our desire to believe the world still has wild, untouched corners. Our hope that something ancient and gentle and impossible might still be alive. Nessie is the part of us that refuses to accept that everything has been discovered, that every map is complete, and that every shadow has been explained. She is the last whisper of the unknown. And in a world that feels increasingly mapped, measured, monitored, the whisper still kind of matters of that mystery of Loch Ness. Here are some more modern sightings. Um, so you'd think smartphones would kill the legend, but no, Nessie adapted. There are webcam sightings, drone footage, Google Earth anomalies, and a 2023 sonar contact that revived global headlines. And every time someone posts a blurry shape, the internet does what the internet does: debates, mocks, believes, hopes. Cryptids don't die in the digital age, they just evolve. And Nessie, she's become the queen of a long form mystery, a creature perfectly suited for a world that wants to wonder but also wants evidence. So, not that we have any concrete evidence that Nessie is an actual monster that lives in Loch Ness, if it's some type of evolved being, if it's a prehistoric dinosaur that's never evolved and just kind of focused its life in the peat rich lake of the Highlands, but the legend still lives on that there is, at some point in time, a creature of unknown worth living in that giant ass lake in the Highlands. So,
I
but
just feel like everybody needs
that's
to see this.
that's a baby. That is a beautiful baby kitten, all snuggled up and ready for love. Oh, but yeah,
All right.
that's Loch
Oh,
Ness
let's
Monster
go.
and the Grim. So, are Google Earth. Let's figure out where we're going next. So,
Yes. Where are we
so,
going next?
so we can forget and have to go back and do it again. I'm feeling lucky, Google. You tell me. Where the fuck is this? New York State.
Okay.
I'm sure there's a lot with the Appalachians up there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, wait.
And the
The Appalachian?
Appalachians, Virginia. Like,
Oh, Catskills. That's what I'm thinking of.
I was like, there are mountains up there, but I don't think it's Appalachians. Okay.
All right, the cousins of the Appalachians. Then we're gonna go there.
Alrighty.
All right. Well, until next time.
Bye.